This first article, it talks about how, one second, people no longer believe working hard will lead to a better life. Listen, and before we get into this, I know right now is a tough time for a lot of people right now. The economy is not in the best shape. Um, Jobs are cutting people left and right, and people are not really seeing any hope right now. So I can understand why people feel like the world is somewhat coming to an end. These are unprecedented times right now. Have we been in this situation before? At least not in my lifetime. We've had ups and downs. We've had the 2008 crash, I would say, but um, right now, the as far as inflation and everything costing an arm and a leg, I don't think we've been in this position before. So this is definitely unprecedented times. And man, if you're out there grinding, man, just keep grinding. I don't know what else. I'm in there with you. You know what I'm saying? I'm in there. I'm right in there with you. I have to work my ass off as well too. There's no other way, but this article talks about how people no longer believe working hard will lead to a better life. Let's read it here. Once the foundation of the American dream, now a fading myth. A global survey reveals that most people no longer believe working hard will actually pay off. In countries like the US, Germany, and France, confidence in social mobility, the belief that you can move up in life through effort, is hitting historic lows. Gen Z and millennials are especially skeptical, with many saying the system feels rigged no matter how hard you grind. Ah, man. See, I'm 50-50 on this topic right now. Um, they are right in the sense of the game is a little bit rigged. I do believe us millennials, at least the younger millennials, right? I'm 30. So I would say anybody from I would say like 40 and below, right? Right at that, the middle part of being a millennial, all the way down to like 29. And then obviously Gen Z. I feel like the game has been harder for us. Our parents were able to buy houses, years ago for $10,000. You know what I'm saying? Like, obviously, it wasn't that low, but I'm just making an example here. But obviously, they were able to buy high assets that will be astronomical today for dirt cheap. You know, and it just shows you how much inflation has dramatically changed the course of how we live, how we spend money. People's mindsets. It's expensive to live right now. It's very expensive to live. So yes, when our parents were going to school, Gen X and Boomers, the student loans weren't that high. You could go to school for, compared to today, for way below what the market, tuition is. So yeah, a lot of things that we are worrying about today, they didn't have to worry about, 40, 50 years ago. Um, does it suck? Yeah, it sucks. Is it fair? No, but life ain't fair. So my stance is this: that because they say working hard is no longer an option, right? They don't see the point in working hard anymore. Well, if that's the case, then I mean, I don't know what else to say. The Because this is what people have to realize when it comes to nature. The whole point of nature is to eliminate the weak. And there's always going to be factors that tie into how we live, that tie into how the world works, that's going to just naturally eliminate the weaker species, the weaker individuals. And this is another form of it doing just that. So I'm not gonna say, oh, just give up because it's too hard. That's a weak mentality. Obviously, we don't preach that over here, not on this side, you know. But I will say you have to work smarter. You have to work a little bit smarter. Working hard isn't going to cut it no more. Everybody works hard, man. Everybody works hard. The guy that cuts your grass works hard. The guy that cleans the bathrooms at your gym or your job, he or she works hard. The guy that is, fixing your plumbing, he works hard. Everybody works hard, but who's working smart? See, that's the thing that they haven't caught on yet. How are you going to work smart? How are you going to beat everybody else? Everybody else is trying to make the same money. We're all going for the same jobs. So in a situation like this, we have to create jobs. We have to make something out of nothing. How do you do that? You have to have a plan. Have a plan, be consistent. When I first, before I started this live stream, this, I guess you want to call it podcast, whatever, I had a plan in place. I had a plan in place and how I was going to use this for more marketing, to get my name, to get my face out there, to get my personality out there, to get people to know me, to know how I think, how I speak. This was a plan of mine to boost my brand. And I've had this plan, I would say, the last year and a half. Because the Winner's Diet, that idea came back in like 2021. I'm just now executing as far as putting it out there and finally going live with it. But the Winner's Diet mentality goes back to 2021. But I've always had a plan. I'm like, okay, I need to make money online, because where I was in LA, the training market, I feel like as wasn't as great as it used to be. You know, I don't think the sustainability of coaching was, at least for me, was there anymore. I didn't really see any longevity in training clients, doing classes. I can't make a living like this, man. This is not going to cut it. So I moved to online coaching. That went well for a second, and then I feel like I hit a plateau in that, and I'm like, okay, now how do I rebrand this thing? How am I going to market it better to get more eyeballs on me? So I came up with this. Everything you see here, from the camera to the microphone to the setup, this was all, I would say, a year and a half of just planning and just waiting, because I was going through a situation. I was trying to figure things out. So it took a little time. It took longer than I expected it to, but eventually I finally got it going, and now here we are. But you have to have a plan. And then number two is you have to execute. You have to work on it every single day. There can't be any days off where you don't work on it. Even if you're thinking about it, even thinking about ideas, that's working to me. This shit is 24/7. I'm never not working. If I'm not editing, if I'm not thinking about new ideas, if I'm not, making content, I'm thinking about making content. Like, you just have to think outside the box. You guys can no longer just do the same thing you've been doing, like it's yesteryears. If you continue to do the same thing, you're going to get the same results. You have to think outside the box. You have to be different. So that's why I tell people all the time, it's like, I get people all the time that come to me and is like, hey, I want to make money online. I'm like, well, you got to put your face out there. Oh, I don't want to do that. All right, well, it's going to be hard for you. I'm not saying it's not possible. You can still make money online without speaking and things like that. There's more than one way to skin a cat, but if you want to create a brand, then yeah, you're going to have to put your face out there and speak. This is not easy, you guys. I'm not the best speaker. I'm not the best communicator. I stumble across my words. I'm not as fluent and coherent when it comes to sentences and things like that. I fuck up. I'm human. I'm not the best speaker, but I'm working on it every single day so that I can become that. I'm working on my deficiencies. I see things for what it is. I don't let it limit me. If I know that I'm weak in something, okay, let's work on it. How do we do that? All right, let's start going live twice a week. And then eventually we're going to keep going live and we're going to keep putting our face out there. We're going to keep speaking on camera. And eventually we're going to get better. Do I want to be the world's best public speaker? Probably not. Not really. Now, if somebody wants to hire me and pay me for a speaking engagement, I'll do it. But you just got to think outside the box, man. You really have to have a plan. Anything that I do that I want to do, I have to have a plan. Because I can't, relying on personal training, relying on training clients in the gym to take care of myself and feed myself and potentially a family. I don't see any longevity in that. People are too flaky, Also, training is a luxury. If you really think about it, you really don't need a personal trainer to get in shape. You really don't need one, but it's a form of luxury. It's very expensive to hire a personal trainer, especially a good one. When you're in LA, if you want to hire a trainer, especially a private trainer, that's going to cost you anywhere from 120 to 250 bucks a session, depending where you are. That is not cheap. And we're talking about 10, 12 sessions a month, 2-3 times a week. That's a lot of money, man. That's a lot of money. So either you're going to be financially well off that can afford to pay this, or you're going to be scraping by. And I can't rely on people scraping by to provide for myself. So I had to go and do this online thing and really double down hard on it. Is it where I want to be at? No, but I'm working towards it. And I know confidently I will get the results I want to get. Only because I know right now I'm doing everything I can to put in the work. I'm not missing any days from posting. I'm not missing any days from working on it. I'm not missing any days from curating ideas to better this thing going forward. So, yeah, man, I don't believe that people should give up. I think people need to switch their mentality and see this as a challenge and a way to get better. See it as a way to improve and grow. Life is going to hit you with challenges, man. How are you going to respond to it? So